Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. President Donald Trump's recent Beijing summit with Xi Jinping had all the visuals Beijing loves: ceremony, handshakes, business leaders, and Trump publicly praising Xi as a great leader. That is the glossy brochure version. But sitting nearby were some of the administration's most recognizable China hawks, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. So yes, the tone was softer, but the message was still, the U.S. is open for business, not asleep at the wheel. The real test is Taiwan. Taiwan's Foreign Minister, Lin Chialung, said Monday that Taipei would view a direct call between Trump and President Lai Ching-te very positively. But he also made clear that no planning talks have happened and that Trump would have to initiate it. That matters because a direct U.S.-Taiwan presidential call would be historic. U.S. and Taiwanese presidents have not spoken directly since Washington recognized Beijing instead of Taipei in 1979. That kind of call would not be a casual checking in, hope the family's good moment. It would be a strategic signal heard very loudly in Beijing. The stakes are not just symbolic. Trump still has not decided on a new $14 billion arms sale package for Taiwan, after Washington approved an $11 billion package in December. Lai has said that if he speaks to Trump, he would tell him China is undermining peace and that nobody has the right to annex Taiwan. That is a clean line from Taipei. We are open to dialogue, but we are not walking quietly into Beijing's living room and calling it home. Beijing, naturally, is not exactly responding with a fruit basket. Around the Taiwan-controlled Pratas Islands, a Chinese Coast Guard ship recently moved into nearby waters and stayed long enough to trigger an unusually tense radio exchange with Taiwan's Coast Guard. The Chinese side claimed sovereignty and jurisdiction over the islands. Taiwan fired back with warnings not to destroy peace and even told the Chinese vessel to return and strive for democracy. That is not just maritime law. That is geopolitical shade with a radio frequency. The Pratas Islands are small, but their location is big business. They sit more than 400 kilometers from Taiwan, roughly between southern Taiwan and Hong Kong, at the top of the South China Sea. They are lightly defended, handled by Taiwan's Coast Guard rather than its military, and very exposed. That makes them a perfect gray zone target for Beijing, close enough to pressure, far enough to complicate Taiwan's response, and ambiguous enough to avoid starting the full fireworks show. Taiwan also reported pushing away the Chinese research ship Tongji near the area for the second time this month. And from Sunday morning to Monday morning, Taiwan's defense ministry tracked 9 PLA aircraft sorties, 7 Chinese warships, and 1 Chinese government vessel around the Taiwan Strait. Those numbers are not the main story. The main story is the pattern. Beijing is keeping pressure on Taiwan while Xi manages the appearance of stability with Trump. It is diplomacy upstairs, elbows downstairs. Japan is also being pulled further into the Taiwan equation. Japanese reporting said Xi criticized Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi and Taiwan's Lai during the Beijing summit, calling them threats to regional peace and urging Trump not to support them. Trump reportedly defended Takaichi. That is notable because Takaichi has been in Beijing's bad books since last November, when she suggested that a Chinese attack on Taiwan could trigger a Japanese military response. Trump then called her after leaving China, and the two leaders reaffirmed the U.S.-Japan alliance as ironclad. Translation: Washington may be talking deals with Beijing, but Tokyo is not being shoved out of the room. Another important strategic node is Diego Garcia. Senator John Kennedy is warning that the U.S. should pressure the United Kingdom not to transfer sovereignty over the Chagos Islands, including Diego Garcia, to Mauritius. Now, that may sound like legal geography trivia. It is not. Diego Garcia is one of the most important U.S.-UK military facilities in the world, supporting operations across the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. Kennedy's concern is that Mauritius has moved closer to China through trade, China-Africa frameworks, and diplomatic moves like revoking Taiwan presidential aircraft flight permits. In simple terms, if you care about Indo-Pacific deterrence, you care who controls the runway, the port, and the paperwork. Now to Myanmar, where the civil war is becoming a strategic minerals story with serious regional consequences. The military has launched renewed offensives into Kachin, Chin, and Karen states under new military chief Ye Win-u, who took over in March after Min Aung-hlaing moved into the presidency. The junta is trying to recover border routes, trade gates, and communication corridors it has lost to ethnic armed groups. This is not just about maps changing color. It is about who controls the arteries of the country. Kachin State is the prize that should have Beijing and every supply chain analyst leaning forward. The area near the Chinese border contains heavy rare earth mining belts that produce roughly half of the world's heavy rare earths. These materials are crucial for electric vehicles, wind turbines, and advanced technology. The Kachin Independence Army took control of key areas in October 2024 and says it is preparing defenses around Chipwe and Pangwa. Its spokesperson, Na Bu, put it bluntly, they will welcome the military with the barrels of our guns. Not exactly a peace process brochure. The junta is also pushing in Chin State near India and along the Myawaddy-Kakarake Highway near Thailand. Those areas matter because they connect Myanmar's internal conflict to cross-border logistics, trade, and opposition support networks. The military says it has secured Phalam and a route between Mandalay and Myitkyina, though outside verification remains difficult. The broader point is clear. Myanmar's military is trying to rebuild control over the country's strategic exits and entrances. On the intelligence front, the Gerald Eddie Brown case gives us a look at what China allegedly wants from former Western military pilots. Brown, a former U.S. Air Force major and Gulf War combat veteran, is accused by U.S. prosecutors of providing unauthorized training to Chinese military pilots. He allegedly worked through a network connected to Stratos Aviation and Chinese businessman Su Bin, who previously pleaded guilty in a U.S. case involving stolen defense contractor data. Brown has pleaded not guilty and denies the allegations. What makes this case important is the type of knowledge involved. Beijing can build aircraft, it can steal data, it can produce glossy videos with dramatic music, but actual combat aviation experience is harder to manufacture. Prosecutors say Brown discussed the F-35, the structure of the U.S. Air Force, and met Chinese military intelligence officials multiple times. If the allegations hold, this is about more than flying lessons. It is about tactics, training culture, judgment under pressure, and the human software behind military power. Think Top Gun Maverick, but with the least comfortable sequel pitch imaginable. Chinese state media pushed the China-Pakistan ironclad brotherhood narrative, highlighting a Pakistani satellite launch, Gwadar Port, Lahore's Orange Line Metro, hydropower, agriculture, medicine, and flood relief. The message is clear. China wants Pakistan seen as a model partner for infrastructure, technology, energy, and Belt and Road influence. Beijing is selling itself abroad as the builder of the future, while at home it is still dealing with the very old problem of dangerous industrial corners being cut. Thanks for listening. If you value clear, consistent analysis, leaving a review or a comment helps others discover the show. We also publish a daily intel brief on Substack, restrictedhandling.substack.com, offering deeper coverage on Russia, China, Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Appreciate your time. Have a great week.